account. Learn more at bitwarden.com.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore in for David Brancaccio. After throwing a 25% import tax on everything from Canada and Mexico on Tuesday, President Trump has now paused the tax, but just for a month. But also only just for some goods. Which ones? Hard to say, because the pause applies only to goods covered under the USMCA free trade agreement between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. This is the one that replaced NAFTA. And that raises an even more complicated question. What do these tariffs mean for this trade agreement at all? Marketplace's Nova Safo is here to try to answer that for us. Hi, Nova.
Oh, boy. Good morning, Sabri.
So the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement was already up for renegotiation soon. How do these tariffs affect that process?
You know, all three countries involved were gearing up to update the trade agreement. This was a deal that was struck in 2020 under Trump 1.0, and there was a renewal baked in. The U.S. really wanted that, and the key date there was July 2026. When we spoke with Jeffrey Schott about this timeline, he's a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics, and he said it was even possible to move ahead those renegotiations.
There's no reason why that review can't be jump-started early and negotiations between the United States, Mexico, and Canada undertaken to fill in areas where new rules are needed and to update the rules in light of new developments in the marketplace.
And there are items that needed updating, Sabri. AI rules, for example. The problem now is that Trump has antagonized our biggest trading partners. And, I mean, even, after all, Canada right now is even talking about a prolonged trade war.
Prolonged. So this pause is not enough to stop that war.
No, not yet, it appears, because it doesn't cover everything, as you mentioned. The assumption right now is that it's probably somewhere about half the trade covered under the USMCA that tariffs have been removed from. But there's still a lot that needs to be figured out, Sabri.
All right. Marketplace in Nova Safo, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Among the items caught up in the ongoing trade wars is potash. It's used to make fertilizer. President Trump raised the tax on that to 25%, then reduced it to 10%, still an added expense for farmers. But farmers aren't just being hit by import taxes. They're also facing revenge tariffs from other countries on what they try to export. Marketplace's Justin Ho has more.
Right now, farmers are starting to think about what they're going to plant this coming spring. But now that China has slapped retaliatory tariffs on big export crops like soybeans,
some of those producers are thinking, well, should I be planting as many soybeans as normal if we're potentially going to be losing some of that demand?
That's Naomi Bloom with Total Farm Marketing. She says in some parts of the country, farmers might decide to diversify and grow crops that can be sold domestically.
They might decide that they would plant barley instead of soybeans, or they could plant oats.
But farmers don't always have that option. Alex Schaefer at Oklahoma State University says the climate and soil in his state dictate what farmers can grow.
If I'm a farmer in Oklahoma, I don't have the choice really between wheat, which I might export, versus apples, which I would want to sell domestically.
Either way, Schaefer says farmers are going to have to make tough decisions on what to plant, not knowing how tariffs will play out. I'm Justin Ho for Marketplace.
All right, let's do the numbers. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all up in the 2 to 0.6% range, with Dow futures up 102 points. New economic data in from China. China imported a lot less last month than usual. Imports fell almost 8.5% year to year in January and February. Domestic demand was fading. China's export growth also slowed down as U.S. tariffs came into effect.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance, providing direct car insurance rates side by side with other insurance carriers. Customers can see rates and find an option that works for their needs. Now that's Progressive. Learn more at progressive.com.
More and more when we look around.